Some stories pull you in from the very first glance, and Ainsley and Ryder's journey in Landman is one of those rare stories. Their moments together are more than just scenes on a screen. They're a mix of raw emotions, hidden feelings, and a spark that refuses to fade. Whether it's the smallest smile or the sharpest argument, every second between them leaves a mark. That's why today, we're diving into the very best of Ainsley and Ryder, the moments that made fans laugh, cry, and believe in their connection. Section 1. The first sparks when Ainsley and Ryder first crossed paths. It wasn't just another introduction, it felt like the beginning of something bigger. Their chemistry wasn't forced, and it didn't need time to grow. It was there, almost instant, like fire catching on dry wood. Ainsley's sharp wit and quiet strength balanced perfectly against Ryder's bold energy and restless drive. From the start, viewers could feel that these two weren't going to be just background characters. They were destined to shake the story at its core. That first spark came not in a grand scene, but in the way they looked at each other. It was subtle, almost unspoken, but the tension was impossible to ignore. Ainsley carried herself with control, but the moment Ryder entered, her walls began to bend, even if she didn't want them to. Ryder, on the other hand, wasn't used to someone matching his intensity. Yet here was Ainsley standing her ground, unshaken, and quietly stealing the spotlight. What makes this early connection so powerful is its honesty. They didn't pretend to like each other right away, and that's what made it real. Their exchanges were sharp, layered with curiosity, and built on a foundation of challenge. It wasn't love at first sight, it was something stronger. It was recognition. A sense that, deep down, they had found someone who could understand the unspoken battles they each carried. This was the moment that fans began to root for them. Not because the show told us to, but because the story gave us a glimpse of two people who, even in their differences, seemed written for one another. That spark, quiet but undeniable, was the start of everything that came after. And looking back now, it's clear the very first encounter set the tone for a connection fans would never forget. Section 2. Who are Ainsley and Ryder? To understand why Ainsley and Ryder stand out, we first need to look at who they really are, both as individuals and as a pair. Ainsley isn't the kind of character who begs for attention. She holds herself with quiet strength, the kind that doesn't need loud words to prove itself. She's sharp, calculated, and grounded in reality. But behind that calm surface is a woman who has seen enough of the world to know that trust doesn't come easy. Every choice she makes, every word she speaks, carries the weight of her experience. That's what makes her so fascinating. She's not easy to read. She doesn't let just anyone in. Ryder, on the other hand, is her opposite in almost every way. He's bold, restless, and never afraid to take risks. Where Ainsley builds walls, Ryder breaks them down without hesitation. His energy is magnetic, sometimes reckless, but always genuine. He's the type of man who throws himself into the fire, even if it means he'll get burned. And it's that daring spirit that makes him both dangerous and impossible to ignore. When you put these two characters together, something remarkable happens. Ainsley's strength forces Ryder to slow down and think, while Ryder's fire pushes Ainsley to step outside the safety of her walls. They balance each other in ways neither expected. And that balance is what keeps their story so compelling. It's not about one overpowering the other. It's about both learning how to bend without breaking. But what truly hooks the audience isn't just their differences. It's how those differences reveal hidden sides of them. With Ryder, we see moments of vulnerability he rarely shows to anyone else. With Ainsley, we see flashes of passion she usually keeps buried deep inside. Together, they draw out the parts of each other that might have stayed hidden forever. That's why Ainsley and Ryder are more than just names in the Landman story. They're proof that the best connections are built not on perfection, but on contrast. And it's this unique mix of strength and fire that sets the stage for everything that follows in their journey. Section 3. The first encounter. The very first time Ainsley and Ryder stood across from each other, it didn't feel like just another scene. It felt charged, as if the entire story paused to make room for that moment. What's powerful about their first encounter isn't grand gestures or dramatic lines. It's the undercurrent of emotion that lingers between them. The air seems heavier, their words sharper. and every glance feels like a quiet promise of something bigger. Ainsley approaches. Ryder with that same calm strength she carries everywhere. Her eyes steady, her voice firm. She doesn't let him walk over her. Even though Ryder has a presence that usually intimidates anyone in his path, he's bold, he's brash, and he's used to being the loudest voice in the room. But when Ainsley speaks, Ryder listens. That shift so subtle, yet so telling, is what makes their first meeting unforgettable. What's striking is how quickly the audience senses their chemistry. It's not forced, and it's not dressed up with romantic cliches. Instead, it's raw, honest, and slightly uncomfortable, like two forces of nature colliding. Ryder isn't sure whether to challenge her or admire her, and Ainsley isn't sure whether to guard herself or let the fire draw her in. That tension is magnetic, and viewers can't help but lean in closer. This first encounter also sets the tone for their future. Their relationship won't be simple. It won't be about easy smiles and quick confessions. Instead, it will be about challenges, clashes, and the slow, unshakable pull of connection that grows stronger with every argument, every risk, and every quiet look they share. Looking back, fans often point to this moment as the spark that lit the entire story. The way Ryder's confident mask slips for just a second when Ainsley meets his eyes. The way Ainsley's composure wavers, even though she tries to hide it. That mix of strength, vulnerability, and unspoken recognition turned a simple meeting into one of the most memorable beginnings in Landman. It wasn't just an introduction. It was destiny knocking, and neither of them could ignore it. Section 4. Tension and conflicts. Every great connection is tested. And for Ainsley and Ryder, tension was there from the very beginning. Their chemistry may have sparked instantly, but it was their clashes that made their story so addictive. They're two people who see the world through completely different lens, is Ainsley, with her careful control and sharp sense of reason, and Ryder, with his bold instincts and refusal to hold back. Put them in the same room, and it's only a matter of time before sparks fly, not always the gentle kind, but the kind that burns hot and bright. The conflicts between them are never shallow. They're not just about who's right or wrong. They're about pride, values, and the weight of the choices they carry. Ainsley doesn't back down when Ryder pushes too far. Ryder refuses to let her silence shut down the truth he's desperate to speak. Every argument becomes layered with meaning, every disagreement filled with emotions they can't quite admit. And in those heated moments, the audience isn't just watching a fight, they're watching two hearts struggle to find common ground without losing themselves. But what makes their tension unforgettable is how it deepens their connection rather than destroying it. Every sharp word reveals more of who they really are. Ryder's anger isn't just fire, it's passion, the kind that comes from caring too much. Ainsley's calm isn't cold, it's protection, the kind she's built after years of carrying her own battles. And when those two forces collide, the truth slips out beneath all the fighting. There's something real, something neither of them can deny. These conflicts become turning points. A late-night argument leaves them both shaken, but closer than before. A heated exchange shows them just how much they mean to each other, even when they can't put it into words. The very tension that could have torn them apart is the same force that ties them tighter together. For fans, these moments are unforgettable because they show love in its rawest form. Not easy, not perfect, but messy, fiery, and alive. Watching Ainsley and Ryder fight isn't just watching two people clash. It's watching two souls wrestle with feelings too strong to ignore. And that's exactly why their conflicts remain some of the most powerful moments in Landman section. Emotional high points for every clash that shook their bond. There were quiet, tender moments that stitched it back together, and these became the heart of Ainsley and Ryder's story. Their emotional highs are not built on grand speeches or sweeping gestures. Instead, they come in those rare, fragile moments when both walls finally drop, and the truth spills out without words. One of the most unforgettable highs is the way Ryder looks at Ainsley when she least expects it. His fire softens, his restless energy slows, and for just a second, the world around them fades. It's not something he says, something he shows, a silent confession written in his eyes. And when Ainsley notices, the audience sees the shift in her too. Her guarded composure cracks, and beneath it, there's warmth, vulnerability, and maybe even the start of trust. Another powerful moment comes when Ainsley is at her breaking point, her strength stretched thin. Ryder doesn't rush in with solutions or loud promises. Instead, he stands beside her in silence, proving that his presence alone is enough. For a man who usually fills every space with his energy, that quiet support is worth more than 1,000 words. It shows that Ryder isn't just chaos, he's someone who can steady himself when Ainsley needs it most. And then there are those rare smiles moments of pure joy that slip through in between the storms. Ainsley's laughter, rare and unguarded, catches Ryder off guard, and suddenly, the fire between them feels lighter, almost playful. It reminds us that their connection isn't built only on intensity and conflict. It's also built on softness, humor, and the rare joy of being seen for exactly who you are. These emotional highs are the glue that holds their story together. Without them, the tension would have torn them apart. But because of them, the audience sees something bigger, a love that's worth the fights, it's worth the risks, and worth every moment of pain along the way. It's in these highs that fans stop questioning if Ainsley and Ryder belong together, and start believing that no matter how hard the journey gets, they'll always find their way back to each other. That's the magic of their story, even in the darkest moments. There's always light waiting to break through. Section 6. Unforgettable scenes. Every love story has scenes that stick with you long after the credits roll. And for Ainsley and Ryder, there are more than a few that fans call unforgettable. These aren't just random clips, they're turning points. Moments so charged with emotion that they define who they are and what they mean to each other. One of the earliest unforgettable scenes comes when their argument takes an unexpected turn into silence. Ainsley, usually so composed, finally lets the frustration spill out. Her voice cracks, and for the first time, Ryder sees the weight she's been carrying beneath her calm exterior. Instead of answering with more fire, Ryder softens, his anger fading into something raw and real. That moment, that pause between them, became more powerful than any words. Fans still talk about how you could feel the shift, the instant when conflict turned into connection. Another iconic scene is the quiet one, just the two of them, sitting side by side, no words spoken. Ryder fidgets, restless as always, but his hand inches closer to hers. Ainsley notices, and instead of pulling away, she lets the silence answer for her. No confession, no big speech, just a touch that says more than they ever could. It's small, almost ordinary, yet unforgettable because it's the moment they let themselves feel they'd been fighting all along. And then there's the scene everyone remembers, the moment of complete vulnerability. Ryder, who always hides behind his boldness, finally breaks down. His voice trembles, his walls collapse, and he admits the fear that drives him. Ainsley doesn't interrupt, doesn't lecture, just listens. And in her listening, Ryder finds the strength he didn't know he had. For a character like him, that raw honesty was shocking. For Ainsley, it was proof that behind the fire and chaos, there was a man worth fighting for. What makes these scenes unforgettable isn't just what happens on screen, it's how they make the audience feel. They capture the essence of Ainsley and Ryder's story, the clash, the tenderness, the unspoken pull that refuses to let them go. Each moment is a reminder that their connection isn't simple, it's layered. It's messy and deeply human. Fans replay these scenes not just because they're dramatic, but because they feel real. They remind us of how complicated love can be and how the smallest gestures can mean everything. These unforgettable scenes aren't just highlights of Landman, they're pieces of a love story that continues to live in the hearts of viewers long after the episode ends. Section 7. Character growth. One of the most powerful parts of Ainsley and Ryder's journey is how much they change each other. From their very first meeting, it was clear that neither would walk away the same. Their growth isn't just about romance, it's about becoming stronger, braver, and more honest versions of themselves. For Ainsley, Ryder is the storm that shakes her calm world. She begins as someone who relies on control, someone who builds walls so high that almost no one can climb them. But Ryder doesn't accept those walls. With every clash, every challenge, he pushes her to step outside the safety of her comfort zone. And slowly, we see her change. Her guarded silence turns into honest words. Her hesitation transforms into courage. Ainsley learns that strength doesn't always mean holding everything in. It can also mean letting someone in. Ryder's growth is just as striking. He starts off reckless, all fire and impulse. A man who thinks acting fast is the only way forward. But with Ainsley, he discovers a new kind of power, the power of patience, of listening, of slowing down enough to really see the person beside him. Ainsley's steady presence forces him to look inward, to face the fears he usually hides behind boldness. In her quiet strength, Ryder finds balance. He learns that love isn't about charging ahead. It's about standing still when someone needs you most. Together, their growth is undeniable. They bring out hidden sides of each other, Ainsley's softness, Ryder's vulnerability, and in doing so, they show the audience that love isn't about changing who you are, but about becoming the person you were always meant to be. Fans love their journey not only because of the sparks and tension, but because watching them grow feels real. It's messy, it's slow, but it's honest. By the time we see them later in the story, they're no longer the same people who first crossed paths. Ainsley is braver, Ryder is wiser, and both are stronger together than they ever were apart. That growth is what makes their story unforgettable. It's proof that the best kind of love doesn't just survive, it transforms. Section 8. The turning point. Every story has a moment when everything shifts, a moment so intense that nothing can go back to the way it was. For Ainsley and Ryder, that turning point didn't come with soft words or gentle smiles. It came with raw truth, with emotions laid bare in a way neither of them could hide from. Up until this point, their bond had been a mix of sparks, arguments, and fleeting moments of tenderness. But then came the scene that broke the pattern. The one where their connection stopped being just tension and started becoming something undeniable. Ryder, usually so bold and unshaken, finally let his guard fall. His voice cracked, his anger dissolved, and for the first time, he admitted just how much Ainsley mattered. It wasn't a polished confession. It was messy, desperate, and real. And that's exactly why it struck so deep. For Ainsley, the turning point was in her response. Instead of retreating behind her walls, instead of shutting down, she let herself stay. She didn't run from Ryder's vulnerability. She stood in it with him. And in that silence, in that steady presence, Ainsley revealed more about her heart than words ever could. It was the moment she stopped holding back and allowed herself to truly feel what had been building all along. Fans often point to this turning point as the scene where everything clicked. From then on, their story was no longer about if they would let each other in. It was about how far they would go to hold on. The uncertainty was replaced with something stronger. A commitment, even if unspoken, that neither of them could walk away from. This moment didn't just change their relationship, changed the entire tone of their journey. The arguments still came. The challenges never stopped. But underneath it all was the knowledge that they had crossed a line. There was no going back to being strangers, no pretending the feelings weren't there. The turning point had bound them together, and from that moment forward, every step they took carried the weight of that truth. It was the scene that redefined Ainsley and Ryder forever, and for fans, it became the heartbeat of their love story.